As you can see, we are teaching lesson 34. Our objective is to multiply two-digit multiples of 10 by two-digit numbers using a place value chart. So 2 by 2. We're going to start out with this question. It says Mrs. Barnes planted 10 rows of beans, 10 rows of squash, 10 rows of tomatoes, and 10 rows of cucumbers in her garden. She put in 22 plants in each row. Draw an area model, label each part, and then write an expression that represents the total number of plants in the garden. So we want to look at how many rows we have. We have one of beans, squash, tomatoes, cucumbers, which is 4. And then how many rows of each? Well, I have 10 rows of each. How many plants were in each row? Well, that was 22, and that goes at the top because 22 represents all of these. So my expression is going to be that I could do 10 times 22 4 times, but instead I'm going to actually group it. 4 times 10 represents these times 22. I could use a distributive property and do 4 times 22 and 10 times 22 to equal them out. Or I could do the associative property, which is 10 times 22 times 4. Or 4 times 22 times 10. We have a variety of options. So let's go ahead and break this up. Let's look at this problem a little bit differently. If each of these is worth 10, and this is 22, we know that area equals length times width. All of these 10s together equal 40. So what I'm really looking for is 40 times 22. So I'm going to show you two different ways. I'm going to show you the associative property, and I'm going to show you the distributive property. The associative property is where you break this down and put it into parentheses, and then bring down your 22. Then we switch our parentheses by bringing down our 4. Nope, I lied. By bringing down our 10, and then switching up our parentheses. Times 10 is really easy, so it's easier to do the other numbers first. We know that 4 times 22 is 88. And then if I multiply that times 10, we know 10 times 88 would equal 880. That's the associative property. So this is an expression right here. There's no answer yet. That's the expression. If I wanted to do it distributive property way, it would look like this. 40 still breaks up into 4 times 10. And we would say 2 times 11. Then we could break it up into 4 times 2, which is 8, times 10 times 11, which is 110, and 8 times 110 is 880. If you don't believe me, you can do it this way. 8 times 0 is 0, 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 1 is 8. Associative property, distributive property. The distributive property breaks up both numbers. The associative property just breaks up the one with the 10. So let's move on. So we did, okay. If we wanted to use a place value chart and we want to break it down, we would do it like this. Again, 4 times 10 times 22. We take our 22, and we multiply it by 4. So it's 1 group, 2 group, 3 group, 4 group. 4 times 22, 1 group, 2 group, 3 group, 4 group. And then we can multiply each one times 10. So 4 times 22 gave us 88, right? 2, 4, 6, 8 10s, 2, 4, 6, 8 1s. So that's 88 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. I'm just going to write a big times 10. Same story here. And if we do that, then we just transfer everything over because it's multiplied times 10. I'm going to change my color here so that we can see them moved over. Now I have 8 hundreds, 8 10s, and 0 1s. It's the same story, 880. All right. This is another one we're going to do in class. We're not going to worry about it right now. But I do want to, again, show you the difference between associative versus distributive. So here is associative, 40 times 34. Associative, we break down that 10, it's not 8, 4 times 10 times 34. Parentheses here. We're going to move our parentheses, keep our 10, and do 4 times 34. We know that 34 times 4 can be multiplied out. It'd be 136. If we do that times 10, we know we shift everything to the left. It's 1,360. Now let's watch the distributive property. Distributive, remember we break both down. So I have 4 times 10. And I break down 34, and I know that 2 works with it, so let's go with 2 because it's an even number, and it's going to be 2 times 17. So if I multiply 4 times 2, I get 8. 10 times 17, I get 170. Let's see if this works. 170 times 8. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 7 is 56 tens. 8 times 100 is 800s, plus 5 is 13. I get the same exact answer. Good luck.